مرحبا وأهلا وسهلا فيكم. I hope you're well and having a wonderful day. In today's tutorial, we'll be talking about the passive participle in Levantine Arabic. This actually applies as well to modern Arabic. We'll cover a number of cases, and in my opinion, this is what you should know at this moment. In terms of suitability, this is a must for any Arabic learner, regardless if you're a beginner or intermediate or upper intermediate. Let's dive into it. Previously, based on all your experiences with learning Arabic, which some of you I know and some of you I don't. Probably you've looked at something what we call a morphology, and that everything is related to the verbs, and in Arabic is dictated and controlled by something called forms. These forms are made in order to make subforms, and these nouns and adjectives that are related in the meaning to the verbs that are derived from. And in this case, the passive is one of them. The passive is used as an adjective and as a noun, and sometimes could be used as both. As you see in the example here before, so طبخ, which means to cook, طبخ, which means to cook, and the passive is مطبوخ, which means cooked. So not that much difference. So once you memorize the verb, you will be able to recognize and remember the passive. And some other verbs, so when you make the passive out of it, or you derive the passive out of the verb, the meaning is very closely related. For example, here we've got يختلف, which means to differ, and مختلف is to differ. So pretty much both means the same thing. And that's one of the things that actually confuses students, whether then they tend to conjugate the adjective or the passive as if it's a verb, but because the translation is a little bit deceptive and they don't really understand it, so that's why they go ahead and conjugate the adjective as if it is a verb. But obviously, that's not the case. Great, let's take it step by step. Now let's see how you can form the passive out of form 1. The verb form is فعل, and that's the standard. So فعل is the standard form or pattern, and again, it does not mean anything, it's just a pattern. And if you would make the passive, all you need to do is just to add an extra M with a, ma, and a waw before the last letter. So you ended up saying مفعول. And again, مفعول is just a pattern. Again, مفعول is just a pattern. So you'll add an MA with a waw before the last to any verb in order to form the passive participle. We've got an example. So كتب, which means to write. So the K stands for an F, and the T stands for the Ain, and the Ba stands for the Lam. And if you want to make the passive, you will add the same which you added to the form to the actual verb. So you would say maktub, and that is absolutely the same. You will do it with any Arabic verb that is form 1, or we call it the basic form or the standard form. Bear in mind, the basic form or the standard form has 3 patterns, but that doesn't make any difference. Great, and job done. Again, you know, the passive participle refers to the person or the thing that has had the action done for it. So something has done in the past, so that sometimes it would refer to be, and that's how sometimes could be a little bit confusing, and students can mix it with a verb. Let's have a look at a number of examples. So again, that's the فعل form, and مفعول is the passive form. So you've got طلب, which means to order or request, and if you change it, becomes مطلوب, requested or demanded. طبخ, which means to cook. Do you want to give it a try? You could pause the video. And it is مطبوخ. أكل, and it becomes مأكول, eaten and cooked. So that's how you conjugate the passive out of the standard basic form. As simple as that, as easy as that. And now we will learn how to conjugate the passive participle from forms 2 to 10. Let's have a look. Similarly, you will have the form. For example, in this form which I chose form 2, which is فعل. But you will do the same thing with any other form. All you need to do is just to add an M with a vowel U on the top and double in pronunciation, the letter before the last, so it becomes مفعل. مفعل. So you've got an example here. سجل, which means to register. سجل, which means to register. And it becomes مسجل, registered or recorded. مسجل. مسجل. And that would be the same case with any verb from form 2 to form 10. Let's have a look at a couple of examples. استأجر is form 10. استأجر, and you'll do the same thing. So it becomes مستأجر. 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 In terms of the doubling and the previous form which I mentioned, form 2, is because it has a doubling within the verb, so that's why that doubling continues to the passive. But if we don't have the shadda or the doubling in a verb, then you don't have to add it to the passive, just to bear that in mind. And here the example, استأجر, استأجر, which means to rent, and مستأجر, which is rented. So the key thing is to add an M with a vowel U to the beginning and make the final letter with vowel or accent A, or what we call in Arabic fatha. اشترك, which means to join, to participate, and to subscribe. Speaking of, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and support it, or give it a big thumbs up. اشترك, which means to participate or join or subscribe. And if you change it to the passive, you would say مشترك. مشترك, joined or subscribed or participated. So مشترك. قارن, which means to compare. قارن, which means to compare, and it becomes مقارن. So you see there's this theme here going on. We've got a letter M with a vowel U and with an R accent before the last letter. And that would be the same case with any verb from form 2 till form 10. انتقل or انتقل. انتقل, which means to move, and if you change it to the passive, you'd say منتقل. منتقل. Again, the letter M with the vowel U and the R accent on the letter before the last. Now I'll read and show you one of the most used passive participles in spoken Arabic and equally in modern Arabic. مكتوب, which means written. مكتوب. مكتوب. مفتوح, open. مفتوح, open. مفهوم, understood. مفهوم. معروف, well known. معروف. موجود, available or present. موجود. مشغول. مشغول. مشغول, which means busy or occupied with something. ممنوع. ممنوع, prohibited. ممنوع. مسموح, allowed. مسموح. مسموح. معقول. معقول, reasonable or believable. مقبول. مقبول. مقبول, acceptable. مجنون, which means crazy. مجنون. And مدروس, which means studied. مدروس. مدروس, which means studied. Great. And with that, I'll end today's tutorial. I hope you really enjoyed it and found it helpful. And now you know how to conjugate the passive, because it's really easy from form 1 up to form 10. Till next time, stay safe. Ma salame.